Hi, I'm Kirk Sinclair, the hiking humanitarian, and I'm sitting in the United Methodist Church in Larned, Kansas, where my wife and I, Cindy, along with the help of Kai, are about halfway through our 5,000-mile journey across the country. We raise awareness for more community involvement to address housing, health, and hunger. And we do that in a couple of ways. We keep a kindness blog, showing the good things that communities do for their own and good things they do for us, for that matter. And then I give talks across the country about the virtues of community to address these issues, about, for instance, how some communities are cooperating and sharing and bartering in order to address some of their housing needs, how some communities are coming up with innovative ways to quote, confuse who is giving and who is receiving when it comes to food distribution. And also how communities are coming up with some innovative ways at health prevention and care and bypassing the corporate boondoggle known as health insurance. And as I've done this, as I've gone along the way, documenting kindness, giving talks about the virtues of community, I've often been told that I should tell them fellers up in Washington about this. And I've kind of resisted that up until now, because I figured it falls on deaf ears to a certain extent. My message is really meant for communities. But it is true that them fellers up in Washington can do things that either help or hinder community initiatives for addressing housing, health, and hunger. So they at least ought to hear a few things. They ought to hear, for instance, that there's a difference between community economics and corporate economics. And community economics is part communal, when people are cooperating and sharing to get things done. And it's part free market, when people are bartering or simple exchanges between each other to get things done, which is a lot different from how corporate economics works. And they ought to hear that there's a difference between community politics and representative government. Community politics is built around participatory government, and that is the highest form of democracy, not a republic, not representative government. It's not voting for someone to make your decisions for you. The highest form of government, and it has existed, and it does exist in small communities, is participatory government. And they ought to hear that there's a difference between civilized culture and community culture. Community culture really is built on small bands, on people belonging to each other in groups. Civilization has been defined by the advent of cities, and it's been the steady march towards more large mass society. And there's a big difference between the two, because in communities, in small band society, people are more responsible to each other. They're more social, they're more egalitarian than in large hierarchical societies like nation states, corporations, or interest groups, and what have you. And so those distinctions ought to be made for them fellers up in Washington, so that they may legislate accordingly to bolster free market economics as opposed to corporate economics, to bolster federation, participatory government as opposed to representative government, so that they can bolster community cultures as opposed to large mass societies. I think there's a lot they can do. I have my own ideas, but I would save that for later. So I ask you now, please, to help me make this video right here go viral, and in so doing put a little pressure for me to get my 15 minutes in front of Congress for when this journey takes us through Washington, because it does. The American Discovery Trail goes through Washington, D.C. So why not be in around late April that I'd be there. And so we've got from now until then to put some pressure and allow this voice to be heard, the voice of community economics, the voice of community politics, and the voice of community cultures. This is Kirk Sinclair, the Hiking Humanitarian. Thank you.